Hi.
Oh my gosh, it's so good to see your beautiful face.
Oh my God, it's so good to see yours. I got to turn the volume up. Hold on, because I can't hear you. There we go. And then now we have to reframe because look, we're all framed differently than we were just a little while ago.
I know.
And both of us, we're perfectionists. So I know both of us like, wait, that's not the framing I just had.
Sisters and many things, one of them being Capricorns.
Which means type A.
Yes.
Okay, so
to say the least.
So it's good to see you.
It's so good to see you. My mood has lifted times 1,000 just seeing your face.
Me too. I love you so much. Let me just tell everybody a little bit about you for those who don't know this incredible human being that I'm sitting across from in this virtual world, or actually maybe not so far in reality. If you really think about it energetically, we might not be so far. Marinda Davis is an incredibly talented choreographer. And yesterday I talked about how she choreographed the So You Think You Can Dance, and I was wrong.
I appreciated the credit. Hopefully,
which everyone who knows me, well, maybe we got some So You Think You Can Dance people coming in to check you out, because actually she's worked on, I met her on Dancing with the Stars. She choreographed an incredible number on Julianne Hough, which you all remember. It was that number where Julianne was diagnosed, and it was sort of Miranda's, it was like your journey, right?
Yes.
Performed on Julianne. It was incredible. But more importantly, what you did on World of Dance Season 2 was amazing. So if you guys haven't seen it, you have to check it out. She's a brilliant, award-winning, poignant, powerful, emotional, driven choreographer who has a lot to say, and it's important messages.
Yes.
But more importantly, she was featured on this CW show called My Last Days. It was a docu-series. And beyond being an incredible choreographer, this series that she did is from the point of view of courageous people living with terminal illness. Yes. So this dear, lovely human being across from me has been diagnosed with terminal illness. And we wanted to talk about what it's like to go through this pandemic with the conditions that we have. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your condition so people can know, all the autoimmune warriors will know what we're talking about as soon as we get into it.
Sure. So I'm going to try to do them off the top of my head. I have 8 different conditions. Most of them are autoimmune. One is genetic. The genetic disease is vascular Ehlers-Danlos, which is what kind of qualifies me as terminal. Mm-hmm. It's a disease that affects the collagen in your body. So essentially everything in your body is held together by collagen. So really at any moment, any of your organs could fall apart from not having the collagen to hold them together. So that's what makes that disease so dangerous. Mm-hmm. I also have lupus, Sjogren's, yes, both of those, Hashimoto's, POTS, mastocytosis, inappropriate sinus tachycardia, and Cushing's, and
dysautonomia.
Yes, dysautonomia. POTS is the kind of the
is that what it's called? Okay.
Of that. Look at you.
I'm a Capricorn. What were you expecting?
She did the research.
Even with brain fog, I can still pull it together.
I know, that's why I'm impressed.
So how are you doing with all of this? I mean, and also recently you had a surgery, right?
I did have a surgery.
And how are you doing?
I from lupus, I went through 3 years of chemotherapy, and I'm still on quite a bit of very dangerous drugs that have a lot of dangerous side effects. And because of that, it did some significant damage to my intestines and my colon. So I had to have surgery to kind of correct that damage. And it oddly coincided with kind of the beginning of quarantine. So you know this, you and I, if there's even a suggestion of somewhere we need to be, we will figure out a way to be there and fight our way there crawling. So the fact that it was kind of lucky in this weird way that quarantine coincided with the path of my healing, because we didn't have anywhere to be because we couldn't be anywhere.
There was nowhere to go.
So for once, I actually followed directions, and I healed on time, which I'm very grateful for. It was definitely a rough recovery, but
I'm glad you're doing well.
Thank you.
So you actually brought this up to me. You reached out and said, we should do an Instagram live where we talk about what it's like to go through this with autoimmune conditions. And I do think that this time has been especially challenging. It's especially challenging for everybody in their own unique way. But we can talk a little bit more about sort of the insider's point of view of having autoimmune conditions. And Yeah, what's it been like for you? And first of all, how many days have you been isolated? Are you isolated? And
Yeah. So when I say this has been one of the most difficult times in my life, I'm certainly not one to gloss over the struggle, because I don't think that services anyone, right? Um, and you know a lot about my life story, so for me to label it as one of the most difficult times is significant. And I think it's been difficult for all the reasons that it's been difficult for every single person going through this, but I think kind of heightened for certain reasons. One being that because I had surgery, I was quarantining a little before everybody else. Two, because we're immunocompromised and have underlying conditions, our rules are very similar to the elderly, right? Like we can't be anywhere near each other. So we have these very strict guidelines from our doctors. Third is I've been doing this alone. I live alone, and that's tremendously hard. I've been doing it for give or take 80 days with minimal to no human contact. And I also experienced a death of someone that I loved that wasn't COVID related, but trying to wade through that grief and process that on your own without like that traditional way of healing and celebrating a life with other people has been difficult. And
without a service or seeing all the people, yes,
right,
sharing the loss together. Yeah.
Right. That's been a new experience. And I know that's been an experience for a lot of people through this. You and I and all the autoimmune warriors know what it's like to be stopped. This is not unfamiliar to us in any way. On some level, we've done this.
We're kind of like
times.
Experts, don't you feel like?
We are. We really are. I wish we weren't, but we are. And that's the perspective I've been trying to inject into a lot of people. A lot of people have texted me and just been like, how do you deal with this? Because so many people are experiencing a loss of control for the first time. And also just that abrupt stop that we constantly feel. So I've been trying to say, imagine what it's like when you're the only one stopped, right? And everybody else is still going. That's what we get a lot, right? And we're
like watching the world go by and we're like, today's an in-bed flare day.
Yeah, we've got a red light and everybody else is like in the fast lane. It's the worst. So we're lucky, I use that term, loosely, that we get to experience this collectively. I've seen so many resources pop up, right? Whether it's financial or mental or emotional resources, or just like the ability to beam in now. Like now you can beam into work, you can beam into events. And I think like, how beautiful would that have been like a year ago when you or I couldn't physically get to work or couldn't physically get to an event. There's power in numbers. So everybody's experiencing this and people are figuring it out. I just hope that when this is over and normal people, and I mean that by healthy people, get to go back into the world, and maybe for us it's later, I hope these sort of resources and accessibility stay present so that people like us can still take advantage of those and still be present even if we can't physically get there.
Yeah, no, I think that's so powerful. And I think what it's doing is it's making the world, for those who have not experienced being immunocompromised or the things that, anybody who's going through some sort of health journey and they're sort of sequestered at home, if they haven't experienced that, I think people are now going to be a lot more compassionate. There's an opportunity here for more compassion towards people who are struggling or feeling isolated, because I think what's fascinating about this situation is that we are all now understanding what it's like to be totally alone in a weird way, like isolated, even if you're with your family, because even when you're with, some people are sequestered with their families, right, and that's a whole different journey, and they could do a whole sequence, I'm sure, a whole series about that. We can do one about being sequestered alone and what that's like, but everyone is going through an extremely challenging time. And that, in that sense, we're all together because we're all going through something that almost feels on most days, on half the days, beyond my own ability.
Yeah.
And yet somehow we rise. So then it's like, oh, it's overwhelming, but then I rise. Oh my God, that's pretty incredible. There's the hope, there's the faith, there's this, this wonderful feeling of like, and then back down. And that's what it's been for me. I feel just like this huge roller coaster. Has it been like that for you as well?
Very much so. It's up and down. It's been quite a ride. I think what's kind of gotten me through it is, you know, there's two easy answers to that question and a bigger one. I'd say like the easiest answer is sometimes I just hang on to my privilege, which is literally like I'm talking to you with a roof over my head, an iPhone to you. So that's so much.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. That's
yes,
so
the
much
privilege
more.
of having a roof over our head. Yes.
Right. That, I mean, sometimes that's all I can hang on to, and that's something to hang on to. And then there's a quote that I love that goes like, I've survived 100% of my worst days so far. So sometimes I just think of like the darker days and I'm like, okay, I'm acknowledging my survival on that, and that's powerful. But there's been some moments, I don't know about you, but like they've just been so dark. And I definitely, and I'm sure you're like this, and all the warriors that are watching, we're equipped to have kind of that stamina and endurance to be in like the darkest cave, right? Metaphorically. And we will search like every crevice to find like this little flicker of light, and we'll hang on to that flicker of light for all it's worth. But there's been days that I can't find the flicker of light. And that's just a metaphor for saying like, you can't find the reason why something is happening, you know, and we're humans. So we want to understand that. So on those days, this sentence keeps coming to me that I kind of wrote down, and it's that there's no greater illuminator to gratitude than loss, right?
Correct. Yes.
And that sentence has kind of been floating in my head through all the really tough days.
Say it again.
Yeah, there's no greater illuminator to gratitude than loss. Oof.
Yes.
Yeah.
It takes darkness to see light.
Yes. And that's to say, you know, there's stuff in my life, that tragedy, trauma, you know, that's so horrendous that I will never be able to find the reason for. Or just like this pandemic, I think we're upwards of 320,000 people have passed away from it. We'll never find the reason in that. Every one of those people was the center of somebody's life. But, you know, loss has informed who I am and the artist I am so much. And I know that it's informed a lot of who you are as well. And when you walk through your life with this heightened sense of gratitude of anything and anyone can be taken from you at any time, and that can sound depressing, but it's not. It makes me hold on to everything like it's the greatest gift. And you know, like the passion I have for what I do, I know is overwhelming to a lot of people, and some people can't understand it, but it's informed by knowing what it is to be without it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. I also remember last time we spoke, listen, before we shut down, I was in the process of creating a podcast, and you came on as one of my guests, and it was such an amazing conversation. It was the first time we had met in person, and it was so uplifting. And I remember you said, oh gosh, and now my brain fog is hitting me full force.
Oh my God.
I just had a thought, and
it'll get you every time.
Wait. It was about, we don't have the luxury to not find a solution.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that was as good as I could get with my brain fog.
Yeah.
But it was like, because of the health conditions that I always believe are there, as everything is a gift. And it takes a while to figure out where the gift is. And some days you can see it and some days you can't. And that's all okay. I don't think it's meant to be everyday gift. I think that's also, like, as we're talking about, you need the darkness to see the light. It's yin yang. It's all the things, balance, harmony, all the things that we talk about.
Right.
But I was so profoundly struck by you saying that, because like, I consider myself somebody who always looks for the solution, always looks for the fix, because I never thought you could do otherwise. And now once you said that, it was like you made sense of so much of my life. Where did that come from for you? Like, I want to understand like the thought process behind that. And because I think it's so powerful. And I think a lot of people will resonate with this, whether they have any illnesses or not.
Right. I think in the sense that we don't have control over our diagnoses. In many ways, they control us. So it was finding what can we control, right? Like that is what keeps me sane every morning, is I literally make a list in my head of, okay, what can I control today? Because having no control, it's horrible, right? It's a horrible feeling when you don't have control. I mean, we have control over so little. So I think that process of how do I cope with something that I can't fix, and you and I are fixers, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it was that process of like, how do you deal with what you have, you know?
And that sort of, I would imagine, is the catalyst of why we wanted to talk today, because we're used to the feeling of not being in control. And I feel that that is something that now a lot of people are facing, the grand illusion of control that we all thought we had. The truth is, we've never really had that much control. What we do have control over, and it's also being highlighted, is sort of our own space, right? Because now everybody's sort of sequestered in their own space. They have to stay in their own bubble. And what they do with their bubble outside of their own home affects other people, which is truly exactly what life on like a philosophical sense is. It's like we are these beings and we're just one, and we're totally independent, and really all we have control over is our immediate surroundings. But also everything that we do can affect others, like going out, if you're asymptomatic right now during the pandemic, even if you don't think you have it, and even if you're not going to be affected by it, you could affect a whole community of people like that. And it's fascinating that we're getting this opportunity. And I don't say that lightly. I know that we have lost so many lives, and I don't mean it in that way. It's just that the only way I can process and survive this is for my mind to try to find the positive. And so I'm not making light of anybody's loss or anything like that. But the gift in it is that we get to sort of really understand what it is to be truly human again.
Yes.
With the emotional roller coaster. We're all experiencing all of our emotions on a daily basis nowadays.
Right. I mean, there's this virus does not discriminate. I mean, it's affecting everyone, celebrity or not, rich, poor, any race, you know, any ethnicity. So we're really experiencing something collectively as a world, not just our country, as the world globally for the first time. So like you said, there's so much opportunity for growth and compassion, and hopefully when and if we go back to normal and whatever that new normal is, people can begin to walk through their lives with more appreciation and gratitude for the things and people that are around them, and more compassion for people that you know, don't have an easy journey, you know.
I want to ask you if this is the case for you, but since we've been in the pandemic, how many days have we been in lockdown now? Like, I can't even count.
I feel like it might be around 70.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
These numbers are crazy.
Well,
and now it almost, right? It feels like, I don't know. It feels like, I don't know. I've lost all sense of time. Every time on the talk, it's funny because I do the introduction and I'm like, it's this date. And I get it wrong half the time because I'm so confused already at this point. And I think I don't even get worried about it because I think everybody else is confused too.
Yeah.
We're kind of on a whatever. But during this time, I have had a lot more flare-ups than normal. And I was wondering, for me, I think it's because there's this constant cloud, this stress that's always there. And sometimes we're dealing with it, sometimes we're not. But it's like, it's actually still right there attached to us at all times. This weight of uncertainty, the fear, the confusion. I mean, the fear of tomorrow, and like a lot of people are not working right now. A lot of people can barely put food on the table if they can at all. This uncertainty, people's jobs that they used to have are not even there for them to go back to. It's a terrible time. And I think we're all worried about it. And even if you're an empathetic person and it's not happening to you, you're feeling it. Mm-hmm. I feel that my body is constantly exhausted and I'm always just on the verge of a flare, and if not in a flare. I've had pain all throughout this whole time.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I've had a couple really bad flares through this, and I also feel like I feel that weight that you're experiencing. You know, unfortunately, anxiety, you know, depression, emotion affects everything, and it certainly exacerbates. It's not the reason, but it exacerbates chronic illness. And you know, it's hard to come out from under that cloud when everyone's experiencing it, and you turn on the TV and you can't ignore the reality of the situation, you know? So yeah, I've found that I've had a lot of pain. I'm doing a lot more within the house. I'm really lucky that I have, you know, help sometimes, and I can't have those people here. So I'm doing things that I know will flare me for a week, but I have no choice.
It's so true. Like when we did a brief chat yesterday to kind of catch up, and we were talking about how like, oh my God, and then because our hands, you know, hands hurt, the rheumatoid arthritis, the weakness in the wrist. So that's such a bummer, because then you're getting things shipped from the house to the house because you can't go to the grocery store, and then it comes in a big box, and then you got to cut it and you got to carry it, but your hands don't work, so you can't really cut it, you can't take it out. Oh my God, it's like,
I know.
sometimes it's so frustrating, and then like you're trying to do all the things, and then you're dropping everything because you can't, and it's like, I'm just trying to take my dish to the sink, and it's like a whole catastrophe.
Yeah.
Sometimes I cry and sometimes I laugh.
Yeah, that's a little of both. I mean, I was trying to make a recipe the other day, and I couldn't open a jar of sauce, and I just had to throw in the towel because I'm like, I can't get this thing open because my hands were so swollen.
I hear you. You know what? I got to send you this. I shop in like the senior citizen section of Amazon, because basically when you have autoimmune conditions, all my doctors are always like, you're kind of like a 75-year-old. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how it feels like, the pain and the things that I can do. And now the eyesight's going. But there's a kit that I have to send you the link for that has all these utensils that will help you open jars. Like one is this plastic mat thing that you can open any jar, and it gives you your life back.
Definitely going to need that.
I'm going to send that too. Okay, but let's see, for tips, can you give like 3 of your best tips to stay out of like the full tumbling, spiraling depression?
Yeah, I'd say my 3 tips would be kind of what I mentioned a second ago, is to even write it down. What can you control, right? What do you have control over today? What you eat, what you drink, you know, whether you meditate or not. You know, what can you control in your life?
Do you meditate?
And I do, but I only started meditating during this pandemic. So that is a gift that's come out of this.
That's good.
Number 2, I would say keep connecting with people, especially if you live alone. Nothing will compare to physical human contact, right? But FaceTime, Zoom, text, you know, find those connections with as many people as you can, and people that don't live alone, try to remember your friends that do live alone and check in on them, right?
Yeah, it matters. When people do that for me, it like brightens my life. Doesn't it do the same for you?
Yes, completely. And thirdly, I would say, you know, be kind to yourself, just in the sense of, if you're having a day where all you can do is cry and eat popcorn on the couch and watch Grey's Anatomy repeatedly,
I have those days.
That's okay, you know. If it's, you know, you're cleaning your whole house and that's what makes you feel better, that's okay too. If you're angry, that's okay. You know, basically just to say every emotion is okay during this. Nobody's ever experienced anything like this, and you know, it's all okay.
Yeah, I love your advice, because that's write it down. I think writing it down is something that not everybody does. And I think that's something, like, from your background of being an artist and an expressor, I like to call artists, because we have to express all that stuff that's going on inside. That's a great habit to get into that I feel like a lot of people don't really have access to. And to stay connected, it is so important. I mean, as dancers, we also know this. Anybody who's been an athlete knows that we all exchange energy. So, like, you know, when you're running next to somebody, you can feel their energy. When you're dancing next to somebody, you know they're forward or backwards, like without looking, you can feel it. You know, all humans have these abilities. They're just not as finely tuned as people that have been in physical professions, you know. And we've had to sort of learn develop these skill sets. And I just feel like people now, with all this alone time and all this just time not working and not being distracted by things that really do not define you, like jobs and all the things that sort of we've lost right now, but we're still, we're still the beautiful human beings that we are. In fact, I think maybe humans are becoming more beautiful in the sense that they're becoming more authentic. And
Sure.
I see a lot of compassion happening around me. I also see a lot of ugly stuff too. I'm not going to lie, and I don't mean to dismiss it, but I see a lot of beautiful compassion. I feel that people are much more present in the moment, noticing, like when you do connect, like this connection between us is 1,000 times more valuable than maybe it would have been even like 3 months ago, because we're not having it all the time.
Right. Right. And we're not being pulled in the millions of directions that we're normally pulled in. That's like the one really beautiful thing that stood out to me the most of this time, is just these conversations that are finally happening because of the time and space, there is to have them.
And, are you teaching right now? How are you doing that? And where can people find you teaching?
I'm just kind of doing everything through Zoom, like everybody is in the dance community, and just kind of doing guest classes for different professional studios and studios here and there. I'm probably going to do a class next week open to everybody. So, I would say just like check in on social media for whenever that gets announced. So
Your inspirations.
yes.
We're inspirations, everybody. Did you get that? We're inspirations. Also, I was thinking about this because I'm, waiting for the fall and hoping Dance with the Stars all comes back. And, with this uncertain time, nobody knows what's going on, right? How do you see the dance world shifting with this new world order that we have?
That is a great question. As we kind of just mentioned, the teaching world has changed very quickly, right? Like the teaching world, professional studios, regular studios, has literally shifted to Zoom overnight. Dancers are moving their couch in their living room and acting like they've done this their entire life. You mentioned this yesterday. I'm going to take your quote. You said dancers are like the most adaptable creatures, right? And that's so true. You and I, and you more than me, have been on sets enough to know that the things that are requested of us on the spot, the changes, the just any other artist, I'm sorry, but any other artist of any other genre on set would either have a meltdown or a tantrum.
They would lose it. They would lose it.
And we don't even bat our eye, and we make the change, and because dance isn't always the top priority in the arts, which I hope we change. We have constantly had to adjust and adapt. So if anybody's going to get through this, it's the dance community. I'm not sure how we remedy like choreography and live performance, which is the center of our industry. I'm still figuring that out. So much of what we do is based off of connection and
that kinesthetic awareness and all that stuff, right?
Yeah. So I'm not sure, but I have no doubt that we're going to be the ones to figure it out. Like, dancers are going to figure out how to go on.
Well, look at TikTok. I'm sorry. The whole world is dancing now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they're saying that TikTok is the platform now that has boomed the most during these quarantine times. And most of what people are doing are these little dances. And I cannot tell you, but, always people come up to me and they're like, when are you going to do Dance with the Stars for normal people? I'm like, well, here it is now. TikTok, because now everybody can dance and have a great time and no pressure. Len, Bruno, and I are not sitting there with paddles. I'm sure everyone's happy about that. It's a half an hour that we've talked. I cannot believe it.
It went so fast.
Where does the time go? But I hope we can do this again.
Me too.
And before we go, is there anything else that you want to share?
I just want to say to you, thank you for having me. And you are such an inspiration to me. I said this when we filmed the podcast, but, society and culture tell us that as sick people, we can't be happy and successful. And you defy that. You're such an example for me to go, yes, you can have both of those things. And so thanks for loving me and being my sister, and for just being there in all things good and hard,
Oh my God, thank you so much. And
of course,
I appreciate that, because especially coming from you, because I truly respect you and I have so much admiration for all that you do, your creativity. Like, I'm envious in a good way. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that when you love somebody's work and you just like, oh, that must have felt so good when she saw that come to life. And oh, the struggle must have, oh, all of it. Like, I love you as a human being. I love your process. I love what you choose to present in this world, the courage that you have, the way you do it with such elegance and grace, and yet a bit of Capricorn strength.
Always.
Like, no one's messing with you.
Yeah.
And most importantly, I'm just happy that you are healthy right now.
Thank you.
And continuing to look, this is your idea. You wanted to do this, and so it shall be.
So it shall be. Hopefully,
Anything for you.
More.
Yes. Let's do more.
Yeah.
Let's do more check-ins, and then I will send you the video, and then you can post it. You'll have it. I'll have it. We can play around and have this and share it with people, because I think some of the things that we talked about here could help people with or without health conditions.
Yeah, I really hope so.
I love you.
I love you.
I want to hug you.
I know. Air hug.
Air hugs. I'll see you soon.
Virtual hug.
Virtual hugs. I can't wait till we can really hug again.
I know. Oh my gosh. Can't wait.
Stay safe.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Oh my gosh.
I know. Awesome. Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.